All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are here again with another episode of the Horns Down Podcast with your host, Chris with a K, Chris Griffin. Shout out to my guy, Seth Oliveris. We always holding it down. Um, got a very special guest with me today. He's been the usual, been one of my go tos, definitely for sure. Jay Smith, everyone. Unfair Sports at Smith and Snit. However you say it.
Smiznit, or
How,
just
how
at
you
Unfair
doing?
Sports. You'll see the name right
How you
there.
doing, bro? How you
I'm
doing?
good, man. I'm good. I am very hopeful and optimistic. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
In
No,
comparison to everybody else.
I feel re-energized this Monday. Had to go a little bit radio silent yesterday. I was just like, damn, I can't believe we lost that game. But speaking of that, let's go ahead and jump right into it. The recap, man. We talked about it on a live stream that you did. Instant reaction. To be honest with you, guys, go over there to Unfair Sports and check it out. Tell them where they can find all those videos at.
Yeah. Just search on YouTube, Unfair Sports. You'll find me. You can go to youtube.com/Unfair Sports. We've changed the name. As well as whoever podcast to download and listen to for any other sports content. But for the OU content specifically, it's on the YouTube channel. You'll see it on the Twitter account as well at Unfair Sports. That's usually where the links fly or whatnot. So yeah, pull up. We did an instant reaction right after the game. That's where we had basically our therapy session. We were able to mourn, cry, be mad. We went through every stage of grief you can imagine.
Every
So we went through
emotion.
all 5 stages of grief, and then we brought it back, and I did another reaction afterwards, my morning after. I do them after every game just to kind of level set, get the mind right.
Yeah.
And kind of like you said, Chris, I'm at that point mentally today where it's like, you know what? I'm Gucci. I'm good. I think
Hey,
I think we have a lot of great things to talk about going forward.
well, speaking of recaps and everything, that's exactly what we're about to do. Folks, they were just the more physical team out there on both sides on both lines of scrimmage. They were the more disciplined team. They had more gap integrity. They had more. They knew exactly what they wanted to do. They schemed this game as about as well as you possibly could. You know what? Actually, no, they didn't scheme this game about as well as you possibly could. What actually happened in my mind was just the fact that their plays just worked really good. They worked well, and they were able to. They came in there with the mindset that hey, we're going to work the field and we're going to earn every touchdown. Did they think that hey, this little out route or this little throw to the flat right there is going to go for 7, 10 yards, 15 yards? No, they probably didn't. They thought that okay, well, this team is tackling better. Let's see if they can actually keep doing that. But just going on the defensive side of the ball, man, we just had no gap integrity. It was hard. They weren't fitting right. They weren't doing a lot of things right. And sometimes they were. They had momentum, but defensively, man, you can't. You played well. It was like the defense just alternated. Basically, it was like, hey, the front seven is about to play their ass off on this drive, and then the secondary is going to play like crap. Then the secondary shuts everybody down, but defensive line, the front seven can't fill gaps. They can't do anything. They're getting eaten up by the run game with Deuce Vaughn and Adrian Martinez, and you're just sitting there just like, what the hell? I mean, I was there at the game, man. It was just crazy to me. I was like, this does not look like the same team that we saw these first 3 weeks. Was it that K State was that much better? No. But I just think defensively, we at sometimes just you have to kind of question not only some of the players, but also the play calling, in my opinion. I don't really get it. I still go back to that 3rd and 16 play, and I'm thinking to myself, man, bring the house at him. Turn him into a passer. I know you've had some broken plays that turned into some big gains for them, but turn him into a passer. Right? Make him scramble, make him lead that pocket. But you can't get home with those four. So, I mean, kind of after the fact, I know you talked about it twice, but talk about it again. I mean, what did you see out there defensively, Jay?
No, to be honest, some of the things I thought about with this game is first off, a lot of people are trying to reference that Tulane loss that they had the week before. That was a trap game for them. That was their trap game. They ignored Tulane and focused only on Oklahoma. And I was talking to our boy Ty Hayes over at Around the Table Sports. Fantastic content. Go check his stuff out. He's got some good deep dives and some great conversations. when me and he were talking, he pointed out one thing. Tulane, at going into this past week, had a top 5 defense in the country. It's not like Tulane's playing a whole bunch of slouches. They're just defensively really good. And remember, Tulane's in Louisiana. So you can technically throw a rock and hit a 5 or a 4-star, or hit a 3-star player that probably could have been a 5-star if they didn't have, some issues. Usually, that's usually how it happens. That's how these smaller schools get certain players that they end up going pro that should have been 5-star or was 5 stars and fell from grace, or they get these players that don't get looked at because of whatever background. Now, Tulane's a really good school, but they have ways of getting certain players into the program to play. So they ain't no slouches when it comes to that. We saw that last year. That may have been just coaching, but at the same time, we got one, Jeffrey Johnson, to transfer to Oklahoma, from Tulane. So they overlooked them 100%, and that's why that L came up. They were focused on Oklahoma. I promise you, they were scheming for Oklahoma since the summer. This was kind of like Texas preparing for Alabama. They probably only focused on getting to Oklahoma, even with the turmoil that's going on, because Oklahoma still brings in talent. Now, outside of that, defensively, looking at the schemes, looking at the way they played, doing some film breakdown, it truly looked like some of the players just missed their spots.
Yeah.
And it's a combination of player and coach. It was a combination of preparation and the players just paying attention to what's going on.
Yeah.
One thing I talked about in both videos we went through, where the hell was the QB spy? That's something that was done in the past against Nebraska when Adrian Martinez was there, because that's where he's the true threat. Is he can scramble. He can keep plays going. And it took for him to have the greatest game of his career to beat Oklahoma. Unfortunately, our defense let him have that. That 3-3-5 that we play, Venables has always had issues with mobile quarterbacks with that scheme. He's always had a problem. What's the one type of quarterback that Nick Saban has struggled with? The mobile quarterback. And this defensive scheme is similar to what Saban did at Alabama with a mixture of, and Ty Hayes told me this, it was Iowa State. They ran a 3-3-5. The problem when you run with that is that it's begging teams to pass the ball, and if you have a really good run game, you almost can't do any. You can't stop it unless you have big linebackers, in which we do. But if you have a mobile quarterback, all he has to do is just kill time and then get a guy open. They had smart receivers in that game.
Well, one of the bigger problems that I had with the game was just the poor tackling. I mean, that's something that you that you feel like, at least for this team, 4 games in, that's uncharacteristic of them, right? And you saw a lot of that. It's a lot of missed tackles. And look, I'm all for strip fumbles and all of that, but man, just hit the guy, get him on the ground. You're letting these little bubble screens that should be 2 or 3 yard gains at the most turn into 6 and 7 yard gains. And whenever they're working on plus yardage, as I like to call it, when they're working on plus yardage plays, I mean, that's fine. That's great for them because that's what they want to do. That's what they did last year to us.
Right.
They were the
real quick, as Jimmy Satterfield, I just commented to you on that, Jimmy, to reply back. How do you scheme with no tape?
Mm-hmm.
Clemson. Just go watch Clemson tape. The one thing we have to remember is this defensive staff is literally everybody from Clemson. Just about everybody. The only person ain't from Clemson is Jay Valai. He was at Alabama. And guess what defense Nick Saban runs? Basically the same thing that Brent Venables does. So the tape's there. It's very easy to access all the information and stuff that they're doing. But then you look at the first 3 games. The first 3 games was basically a confirmation for Kansas State from any summer tape they watched of Clemson and Alabama.
My whole thing is, like I said, it was poor tackling. You weren't filling your gaps. A bunch of arm tackles. Stutzman and Aguabu will love them. I love them out there together. Got to be more consistent on the field. Got to be more consistent because these past 2 games has kind of tailed off, as far as the production that you were seeing. Do I think Kansas State? Do I think that 9 times out of 10 do we beat K-State? Hell yes, I do. But there's got to be a lot of things that need to be fixed. I do. Because I say you meet them in a Big 12 championship game. I think that you figure it out. I think you figure it out in a good way because you're going to go back to that same tape and you're going to say, okay, you want to run these quarterback runs. You want to hide Deuce Vaughn behind these blockers? No, it's gonna be fine. We got you. The inside run game has always been a part of there. They do a lot of quarterback run. I mean, Colin Klein's calling the plays for goodness sake, you know?
I just love the fact that his offensive coordinator is Colin Klein and his name is
Yeah.
Chris Kleeman. It's just beautiful seeing the
So
combination of that. But on that point,
yeah.
though, defensively, when I watched it, and I agree with Jimmy here, it literally was those tackles and poor angling by the defense, and it was just personnel. I think it was everybody. In some situations, Stutzman was where he's supposed to be. It didn't look like he was, but he was in the right spot, and somebody else didn't go to where they were supposed to. And then chasing Deuce Vaughn, who's like a diet version of Barry Sanders, the way he cuts back on people, it's hard to get a hold of him. You need defensive linemen that can grab him. And when we did grab him, we stopped him. We got a lot of tackles for loss in this game, which was, I mean, a lot more impressive than I thought. It was just the threat of both Adrian Martinez and Deuce Vaughn kicked our tail. We have to be prepared for that, and I think we will later.
The third down efficiency for them, in my opinion. Now, granted, look, somebody may be looking at the box score and look at the actual stats. I'm going off an eye test.
Right.
I was
yeah.
And off the eye, it was almost like, man, they're converting third downs at a really high chip, especially these third and longs. So you just want to see this defense be more consistent. We got the guys, we got the staff, we got everything that we need. I still believe in this team. I think this defense will be better going forward. Now, offensively,
you're right. Before we jump on the offense, defensively, you are 100% right. They will be better week over week. The one thing I've tried to emphasize in most of my videos.
Hold that thought. We're gonna get to that. We're gonna keep moving on these points. Now let me just touch on the offense real quick, okay?
Okay, go ahead.
Offensively speaking, I hate to do it, but I gotta say it. Gabriel, you gotta be more consistent. You gotta hit those guys. You gotta sustain drives. You gotta get those guys the ball in the places they need it. He had a walk-in touchdown to not to Theo Weiss, but to Drake Stoops.
Yep.
Missed him. Missed Drake Stoops on the out route to convert that fourth down. Weiss was running wide open past his guy, stared him down the entire time, but wouldn't throw it. I mean, we need to see a more consistent Dillon Gabriel.
So I'm going to have to push back on you on that. 26 for 39, 330, 8.5 yards per pass, 4 touchdowns. He was consistent. Now, he does need to stop missing passes, but remember this, every quarterback does it, unfortunately. Yeah. It's hard to be perfect. And the reason why it's hard to be perfect, especially against Kansas State, they got really tall and long linemen. Gabriel's maybe 6 feet tall on his best day, wearing cleats and a pair of platforms right underneath him. He's 6 feet tall. So the problem with a lot of his passes where he was trying to get it over them linemen, because Kansas State defensively is smart, they put their hands up. Irregardless of where the ball's going, hands up. That pass to Drake Stoops, if there was anything he should have done, I want him to, and I think this goes back to Lebby and them trying not to control things too much. That should have been a situation where he scrambled to the left and got the first down. 3 yards, nobody was on the left side because the defense was smart. They manned up on every single player. He had a hole for at least 4 yards. Sometimes you got to just take the ball. Dude can dip. He's got some scoops.
Well, that's what I'm saying, JJ. He's got to be more consistent with that, because we've seen him stare down receivers that are wide open but still take sacks. He's taking coverage sacks pretty much. It's not even really the defensive line doing anything. He's taking coverage sacks.
Yeah, and luckily he hasn't taken very many. But yeah, you're right. It's you got to eliminate the ones that cost you.
But that's the whole thing. But that's the whole thing. You've seen it week in and week out, though. And I get that. I get statistically speaking, you may say it's far and very few, but at the same time, it's showing up at some of those key moments on some of the key part of the drives. So
you're right.
Yeah, you can't just sit there. I have nothing to say about the wide receiver core. They're doing what they should be doing. He's getting the ball to them. Don't get me wrong. He threw some beautiful passes out there.
Oh, yeah.
Gabriel went out there and played a solid game, but I'm saying some of those drives were not in those situations if Gabriel is being more decisive and he's actually continuing to hit those passes consistently.
No,
Now,
you're right. You're right.
one
You're
of the
right.
things that I was thinking was, okay, well, maybe at UCF he played with taller receivers, so he's used to a certain type of receiver, right? I don't think that that's the, yeah, I don't think that
We got
that's
big
the,
receivers. Our receivers
yeah,
are big. We got big
yeah,
receiver court. I mean,
yeah.
go look at the actual sizes of everybody. We don't have very many.
Mhm,
I mean, what Mims is what? He's probably one of
mhm.
the, him and Stoops are probably the shorter ones.
Yeah. But I think that offensively, man, you got some things to clean up, but it's not that much. You're close. You're really close. But offensive line can't kill you with penalties. And Gabriel, it really boils down to Gabriel and the offensive line. If they're on fire and they're clicking, they're on the same page, it's lights out for any defense out there. I don't care who it is. I
Right,
don't
because
care
look at it.
who it
Theo
is.
Weiss is 6'5". Theo Weiss is 6'3". You've
Uh-huh.
got Farouk is 6'1". JJ Hester is 6'4". Mims and Stoops are both at 5'11", 5'10". So those are really your smaller dudes, your slot guys. But all the edgers, 6'3", 6'5", 6'1", 6'4", 6'4". We've got nothing but big dudes. So yeah, and I guess for me with the Gabriel piece is I know that we want to blame him for especially the Stoops miss. That was a touchdown. It was a walk-in touchdown. I'm totally understanding that that's one you can't miss. He's got to get better on things like that. But overall, it was the line. They just let those defenders get too close to where he could not get those throws off the way you're supposed to. And then, of course, like it's been mentioned in every comment I've seen in the video we had and everything, it's those penalties at the wrong time.
Penalties at
Those
the
penalties at the
wrong
wrong time.
time.
Levy doing that substitution at 4th and 2 that late, knowing we have to let the other team bring in somebody and they don't have to rush, should have called timeout. I blame Gabriel for that one. He should have just called a timeout without permission because in that situation, there was no way he was getting that ball hyped. That delayed game hurt us. The 3rd and 16 hurt us on the defensive side when we let Martinez dip 55 yards. There was a lot of things to worked on.
The momentum swing. I'm sorry to cut you off, but I was just going to add to that piece. The momentum swing, honestly, was a kickoff. How the hell does he return it to basically your 40-yard line?
Yeah,
Like what's up with
that's
that?
another bad one. You got to stop doing stuff like that. But besides that, I'm going to keep reminding everybody the regime, we're new. This is all new. It's new to the players. Still figuring it out. They were able to have some cupcakes to try to get things ironed out when they added in new stuff against people that actually are really good. Kansas State's a good team, period. We talk about the Tulane loss. Kansas State's a good team. They are one team that a lot of people picked to win the Big 12 this year. They're very tenured. They've been together. Kleiman's been
Well,
there. Kleeman's been there 5 years. They're tenured. They know what
well,
they're doing. And you
well.
don't have to have Adrian Martinez do much besides be himself. Scramble, keep plays alive. Keep that in mind.
So what I was going to say is, speaking of a good team, going forward, let's talk about OU again. Moving forward, what this team has to do, what does this team have to do to correct the mistakes that you saw on Saturday and end up in Arlington? Because look, I hate that I'm even going to say this, but hey, 11-1, let's do it. Let's get it. Let's get it.
Yeah, I said in my prediction they were going to lose at least one game.
Yeah.
I kind of have at this point two, maybe, but I don't think Baylor's as good as I thought they were going to be. Like Blake Sharpen is okay. I thought he was going to be better, and after watching him play a little bit, I was like, he's not as impressive as I thought he was going to be. Like I don't understand how Bohannon lost the job. That's just my eye test. And now I may be way off on that, but I just don't know how he lost the job. But with that, 11-1 is very easily in sight. This is not a situation where it's truly too much to panic. And kind of like Jimmy mentioned in this one, I think the thing that we need to do is just discipline on the offensive line.
Yeah.
Really, discipline on the offensive line and discipline at the linebacker position, because the linebackers are the most important component of this Venables defense. When
Yeah.
they're up and strong and they're hitting the right holes, because when you go back and watch the film, we were just running into the wrong hole. Some people were running into holes that other people were supposed to cover, or they were hitting the right holes and the other player did not go around to the spot they were supposed to. There was so many just silly miscues that are correctable. I promise you. They're watching film and every player's like, "Yep, that was me. Yep, that's where I should have been. Got to be better with that. Got to be better with that." And they will look a lot tighter against TCU.
And And that's what I expect. I expect total domination going out here against TCU. I expect you to go out there and stop their. They, I like to call them an East and West type of offense. Max Duggan is going to bring a run, certain run element to the game. You already know that they have one of the top wide receivers in the nation in Johnston. But at the same time, they have durable backs, they have serviceable backs, and they have some other good wide receivers. They're a solid team. Sonny Dykes is a good coach. You know he's going to come in there with a good game plan. But at the same time, this is a great game to come back and just respond.
Yeah.
Respond accordingly. Respond how OU always has. It's not characteristic of OU to lose back-to-back games. So what I expect to see in Fort Worth is a more disciplined team, a more sound team, fundamentally sound team. And I bet you will see a lot better pursuit angles, better tackling, and way more effort than you saw last Saturday. I think moving forward, you're going to see some teams like OSU with Spencer Sanders. You know, they like to run him as well. You're going to see them try to mimic some of the stuff that you saw in the K-State game. You're going to see Texas come out there with the Rocat and try to run Bijan the same manner as well. You know,
Yeah.
obviously they like to run him to the short side of the field or whatnot, but they're also going to try to run him downhill at this D line and just to get to that try to get to kind of that mid 2 second level with the linebackers,
Mm-hmm.
right? So the whole thing, you want to see the linebackers be able to feel and be able to get in there and be physical. You want to see the defensive line be physical as well. I think one of the things that I've been calling for with Ethan Downs, hell, still even Reggie Grimes, but especially with Ethan Downs, got to shed those blocks. You got to get off those blocks.
No,
Got
I'm
to
with
get
you
off
on
those
that.
blocks.
I'm
Yeah.
with you on that, and then that's gonna be a key thing in this game is gonna be the defense. Like you said, Duggan is out here putting up some numbers. I guess Chandler Morris is not coming back, is what it
Is he
sounds
hurt?
like.
I
Yeah,
guess with
he's
his
hurt. He was
knee.
the starting
Yeah.
quarterback to start the season. He hurt his knee right afterward. I think it was the
Yeah.
first game against Colorado. We haven't seen him since. So it doesn't
Yeah.
look like there's been anything said about him. I'm digging right now just to see if I can find any additional information, but it looks like it's going to be Duggan probably for a while. As Chandler doesn't look like he's actually healthy right now, but
Well, that's a great segue. Let's go move right on to the third point. Let's go to the TCU offense. So, I mean, we've already kind of highlighted some of the players. Quentin Johnston, I think that's how you say his name, right? Quentin Johnston.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then you got Max Duggan as well. Like I said, they have some durable backs back there. And you know, Sonny Dykes is going to have an offensive scheme ready. I think hopefully, I would like to see us go back to a 4-man front, to a traditional 4-3, and see what we can do with that. And then show how multiple we can be with a 3-3-5 or whatever other looks that we want to give them. But at the same time, we need this game. This is another solid outing, another solid test before we go up against Texas. You know, Texas is going to come out there same way that K-State did. They're going to throw the kitchen sink at us. And that's what you have to expect if you're OU from now on out. Because I don't think that people think that you're necessarily not physical, but I think that they believe they can still outman you and out scheme you in different parts of the game, right?
Yep.
Offensively, this is going to be another really good. I won't say necessarily a good test, but this is going to be a good self test, self exam, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because this defense will give up points. They will give up yards. It's just Levy's play calling has to be on point. Levy got to call me something. He got to call me something because that K-State game, I kept saying it out loud. I was like, call me something good, Levy. Call me something good, Levy. But some of the east and west stuff that we've been doing with some of the bubble screens and the motions and everything, it doesn't really make that sense to me, especially when it's like second and 5, third and 5 and stuff, because we're not getting that blocking on the perimeter that we used to get, in my
Yeah, the
opinion.
receivers aren't blocking very well. When I was watching through the film and rewatching the game, that was one of the big issues I ran into. Noticed was that up into the third quarter, when Eric Gray started going off, we were not getting much blocking or whatnot. And I agree with you, Jimmy. For a 4-man front will be nice. If we can bring an edge in and do a little bit more, we'll kind of see what is cooked up on the defensive side. But offensively, yeah, that's kind of one thing we do need to get. We need to get going. We need to get engineering is better blocking so that Dylan can go deep. Dylan wants to throw the ball. And we noticed when he got blocking, what did he do? He launched it to Mims, touchdown.
Yeah.
Launched it to Willis, touchdown. He was able to get those plays going when he had just enough time. Because all of them are timing routes. And it's just we weren't giving enough time to really hit those plays. Now, like I said, there were certain plays where DG was not hitting the receiver he should have. We just got to we've got it, like you said, we need a little bit more consistent play on that. We need consistent play on the offensive line so DG doesn't have to panic or doesn't panic. And I want him to run a little bit more.
Yeah, well, one of the things when we had Spencer Rattler as our quarterback, in his sophomore year, right? Last year, as a matter of fact, one of the things I kept harping on coming into to that season was, hey, I want to see Spencer Rattler have better pocket presence. Meaning, if you really, really watch Joe Burrow, go back to that championship season with LSU. Was his offensive line just world beaters, or just simply were they amazing? I don't necessarily know if you can just say that. Some people might, but I'll say go back and look at the film. He stepped up in the pocket. His pocket presence was just supernatural. It was abnormally good.
He looked comfortable the entire time. You're right.
The way he worked around the pocket, his eyes were constantly moving. He felt the pressure, but he was like, hey, if I keep stepping up, I'm gonna give myself two options. I'll find a guy that's gonna pop open, or I'm gonna be able to run for that first down. And you saw that happen an awful lot. He was able to keep the plays alive because he was able to maneuver the pocket and manipulate it how he wanted to. So with that being said, that's something that I would hope that we see on a week-to-week basis, like improvement from Gabriel on as far as him being able to maneuver around that pocket and help this offensive line out. He doesn't have to be a true mobile threat. I don't think that he has to be that in this offense. But what he does need to do is present the threat and then still be able to make those throws as well. So if we get that, a consistent, which I think you will, because I think that you're going to see a pissed off OU team this weekend. That's what I think that you're going to see. Nobody's patting you on the back. You're number 18 now. I think you're going to see a pissed off OU defense and offense this weekend.
No, I agree with you there. We'll see a lot better play this year in comparison to what we saw coming into last week. We'll see more consistency. We'll see more discipline. You can tell by the way these coaches were talking post game and in the press conferences that they got a handle of what the problem was. I mean, hell, you saw it on the live film, and I'm not sure what you saw as far as actually at the game, but Brent Venables literally had a notebook and he was taking notes the entire game. You can tell that he had notes from every other play, any mistakes. He was ready to, all right, this time, at this time, at this time. Going through that film, they're going to break it down meticulously, and that's something that I don't feel like we've had here at Oklahoma in a long time. And we'll see that the fruits of those labors show over the next few weeks.
It's still an exciting time to be a Sooner fan. No matter what happens this season, I'm still going to be excited about the prospects of this season and next season to come. Because every time that we face some type of adversity during the year, what has happened? What has happened? We finished on a high note.
And that's what's important.
That's the same thing that's going to happen this year. I have no doubt about it.
Agreed. We're in agreement there. That will respond accordingly. So from there, just reminder to everybody, new staff, all the players are still learning it. This is their first time having a Schmitty summer where they got the crap kicked out of them in practice and they started to really turn up when it comes to conditioning. They're getting acclimated just like the coaching staff are getting acclimated to these players. We have the talent. The question has always been coaching. But as I mentioned, one of the struggles of a defense that Venables has, the struggle we saw that Nick Saban had, honestly, playing against Clemson, is a really smart mobile quarterback. And Adrian Martinez has been in college football, it feels like, for 15 years.
Yeah.
So he's like the next major Applewhite who was a quarterback. I literally at Texas, it felt like he was there for 9 years. Taysom Hill was at BYU for like 15 years.
I
So
mean,
my
he kind
point,
of is a super senior. You, if you think about it.
it is, and that's my point. He's experienced, so he knows what to do. This is not like we were dealing with a sophomore quarterback who's still figuring out college football. No, Adrian Martinez knows the game. He was productive at Nebraska. His teams was just trash. He knows what to do, and because of that, bring that experience with a coach who's experienced in the Big 12 and knows these teams. That's what's helping K-State look like they're probably one of the better teams in the conference this year. Wait until they go play
It's still
Texas.
too
Y'all gonna be
early.
like, wait till
It's
they go play
still too
Texas.
early.
I can't say that.
It's still
Can't say
too
that. I
early.
can't
It's
say
still
that.
too early. I
No.
know they got us, but it's still too early. It's
That team
way
is
too early.
veterans. That team, look, Oklahoma State's defense was one of the top 10s in the country last year because they had a whole bunch of seniors and super seniors.
Yeah.
Look at this Kansas State roster. They got a lot of veteran presence. A lot of people that's played together for some years.
I'll be looking for it. I'll be
Go
looking
look
for
for
it.
it.
I'll be looking
Like I
for it
said,
down the
Tulane was
line.
the trap game. Everybody has at least one trap. For us, I thought that TCU was going to be the trap game. I feel like it was more Kansas State now. This was the
Yeah.
game where we were like thinking 2 games ahead and like, oh, we should beat them at home. But at the same time, like you said, 8, 9 times out of 10 we'll beat them. Hey man, we're right now on a 50% clip. When we at home, we ain't beating them. They just like it in Norman. I don't know what it is. We beat up on them in Manhattan, Kansas, but they
He's a
just
closet K.
love Norman, and
He's a
they've
closet.
always loved Norman.
He's a closet K State fan, y'all. Uh, moving on to the next point. Let's see. TCU defense. Do they present any fears in your heart? Do they scare you, or you think that we should jump up pretty early on them?
No, I don't see anything on that defense so far. I still got some more study to do on them, but nothing about them makes me feel like we can't go out and score on them and we can't go out there and defend them. Sonny Dykes puts together some really good offenses. I don't know about his defenses. Just going back and looking at his record as a coach and some of the things, I don't know. But I do know this. We should be able to go out there and score 40 points
We
again.
moved the ball really well against K State. We
Yeah.
just could not capitalize on the momentum or those plays. Like you said, penalties at the worst possible times, and then just some miscues by Gabriel. Let's just be honest with you. That's if
The
you
Venable
sustain those,
defense,
yeah, if you sustain those drives, you probably. It's probably a game down to the wire, but K State's probably having to make plays to try to win the game, in my opinion. So
yeah, no, you're right. That Venable defense, though, is 20-20. They usually give you a little bit of that, and then in the red zone, they clamp down even more, especially in
yeah,
that 3-3-5 with big linebackers. We just didn't clamp down like we normally do in those red zone situations, and I think that will change in this game where
yeah,
we're going to try to stop people from getting past the 50. We've done it for 3 games straight. Casey Thompson is not a bad quarterback. He just had a very bad team that he's playing with. And he ate up us last year, and we were able to calm that down.
yeah.
That's what we're going to be looking for when it goes up against Duggan next week. This
We
weekend.
should look. People are gonna call me crazy for saying this. The road to the college football playoff is still there. The road to the Big 12 championship
Yeah.
is still there. It's one game, people. Rome wasn't built overnight. We will be fine. It will
Yeah,
be
yeah,
just fine. Because
yeah.
trust me, trust me, this I think with this staff right here, they may not cuss, but I can tell you this right here. A lot of players are not loving what they're hearing right now.
And Carmen,
And
okay, you're right.
yeah,
I believe in Venables too. You're 100% right that you got to come and grind week in and week out. I think they do grind week in and week out. And I honestly just think that they just had just a bad game. And you can't have very many bad games in college football. You can have one. And this
yeah.
has got to be the last one they have this year, period.
Got to reset your mind and go back there. But yeah, go ahead.
Also, we talked about this too on the live stream of the instant reaction. Is we're so as Sooner fans, not only are Sooner fans very spoiled, just keep that in mind. We've had great
Yeah,
quarterback play literally the last 20 years, besides a couple of years of questionable, but we've had excellent quarterback play for the last 20 years. That's what 3 number 1 draft picks at quarterback. So we've seen excellence. Also, we're so used to the quarterbacks having to dig us out of holes because the defense put us there that we forget that sometimes you can have a quarterback who's not a world beater like a Dylan Gabriel, but who's really good and can put up numbers. That the defense needs to also put their back into it too. And I think that we'll get more of that this year. The rest of the season, the defense will hold up their end of the bargain, and then Gabriel can go out there. We just need the offensive line to get better meshed. That's
Yeah.
what it is. The offensive line gets better meshed, and then Gabriel goes out there and cooks.
Matar,
Yeah,
Matar and
McKay
Rain.
Matower, yeah,
Yeah,
McKay Matower, yeah.
Matar and Rain. They got to come on. They got to come on.
And I think they will, and they've shown it. They've shown it this year. I think it's like I said. It felt like a lot of mental lapses, and it felt like we were really thinking 2 weeks ahead.
All right. Well, our last point is honestly just a national perspective. What other games this weekend are you looking forward to? Texas, it's one thing that would have made it so sweet if we would have won that game, would have just been able to kind of bag on Texas for a whole week. But Texas has another tough matchup going to West Virginia this weekend. So
Yeah, I'm kind of curious to if 5-star JT Daniels can play like 5-star JT Daniels in that game. If he goes out there and plays it, I mean, there's a good chance that West Virginia causes some problems. It's so funny. I've heard a few national people talk about that game, and they're all just like, "Yeah, there's a good chance that Texas can go like 3-9 by the end of the season because in conference, a lot of these games are gonna be a lot tougher than you think." But if you want to know the games that I'm really looking for, in conference, there's two games that I'm really amped to actually pay attention to. Oklahoma State Baylor, especially them
uh-huh.
traveling down to Waco. So both Oklahoma teams will be in Texas this weekend. I think that's the only thing I hate about this TCU game is that we'll be going to the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex 2 weekends in a row. Kind of concerns me, but we'll figure that bad boy out. But both teams will be in Texas this weekend. So that Oklahoma State Baylor game is going to be key. Let's see what Blake Sharping can do against an Oklahoma State defense. If he carves them up, there's a really good chance that they may be more competitive coming up against Oklahoma later in the week. And then it's this Iowa State Kansas game. Kansas undefeated, y'all, and there's a good chance they could be 6-0 when they come to Norman.
Where are they
How y'all
playing
gonna
at?
feel? They're playing in Kansas. They're in Lawrence at 2:30 next week. But when we play them in 2 more weeks after the Red River, it'll be the chance that Kansas will be 6-0 in Norman.
Huh. Hopefully
That
they're
college
ranked
game
too.
day might be in town that weekend because undefeated Kansas guys ain't seen that since Mangino days, and he went 12-1. Keep that. Remember
Um,
that.
I'm definitely going to be looking at Alabama at Arkansas. Hey, let me correct myself. I misspoke. I said West Virginia at Texas is actually, excuse me, Texas at West Virginia is actually West
Because
Virginia
Virginia's
at
traveling
Texas.
to
Yeah,
Austin, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I thought.
No,
So Big 12 wise, those are my Big 12 games. But if you want to add national perspective, I'm with you. That Alabama Arkansas game in Fayetteville
yeah.
is going to be a big one. That one's going to be key, as
NC
well
State at
as
Clemson.
yeah. I was about to say that's the other game that's going to have a lot of national attention because NC State's considered they're up there as far as winning the actual ACC this year, and if they go to Clemson and they beat them, they could be a threat. But I don't believe in NC State. I've kind of looked at some of their games. They've looked a little shaky. That Texas Tech game was, yeah, that East Carolina game to start the season was not what I thought it was going to be, and then that Texas Tech game,
Hmm.
they didn't dominate like I thought they would. But the Wolfpack could be serious. They could be a true contender this year. We'll see what they look like. They'll go into Clemson though.
You could potentially move up pretty this weekend because if UCLA does the deed and beats Washington, which that's gonna be a hard fought game, but you never know. Washington's playing really good football. Um, my dad just
Is
texted me
that
and said,
Pac-12
"Hey,
after dark?
huh?
Is that Pac-12 after dark? We getting
Yeah,
Washington, or
it's
are they playing
Pac-12 after
early?
dark." My dad just texted me. He said they did your Sooners wrong. They shouldn't have dropped y'all that far.
I think it was fair that they dropped Oklahoma to where it's at, and I was thinking about making a video about that later, but I probably won't. I don't. I think that is a fair drop to 16. It's one of those reminders. 18 is one of those reminders that, hey, you got to win the games that you got to win. The winnable games, the games that you're supposed to win, the games where you're too favorited at, you got to win
Yeah.
those games. And I feel like that was a situation where it's a reminder, win those games. Kentucky, Ole Miss. SEC's got some good games
Yeah, I was going to
this
say
week.
Kentucky at Ole Miss. That's exactly the line I was about to go down because you got Washington, UCLA, then you got Kentucky at Ole Miss as well. So I mean, I would take Kentucky in that game, but you know, Purdue at Minnesota would be another good one. Let's
Actually,
see,
Northwestern going out there to Penn State might actually be interesting.
that might
Northwestern has
be
a tendency of
interesting.
playing up to their competition, and Penn State has a tendency of playing down. So they may actually balance themselves out, but we'll see.
That's hopeful. I mean, that is that I mean, it's a time of possession game. If Northwestern can control the time of possession, they win that game. If not, then it may be a blowout.
Yeah.
Um,
Now you know what's gonna be fun though? It's
what's
gonna be
that?
this Texas A&M Mississippi State game. Right now, Mississippi State's favored to win it at 68.7% on ESPN's Football Power Index. They think that that air raid's gonna destroy A&M. And think about it, they had the number one class with all these recruits, and they get blasted by Mike Leach. Boy, boy, that's a problem.
I'm hoping for some chaos, man. I want to see my Sooners move back up, but we will. We'll get back there because
Oh yeah.
look, college football playoff, those polls are the ones that matter, and that positioning is going to be vital. But at the same time, just got to win. Got to win out. Got to
You
win
gotta win,
out, look
baby.
good, and win out. But that's the
Hey,
main
y'all
thing
better
is
be
just
rooting
win.
for Kansas State. Just keep
Oh
it a
yeah,
buck. You want them to be high. That makes that loss look a lot better. To the committee that, like, you know what, Kansas ran the conference, and then they faced Oklahoma in the Big 12 championship and lost, so they were 1-1. We're good neutral site against K State. We just can't beat them in Norman, man. They just like Norman. They do. They just like Norman. I don't
I
know
don't
what it
know what
is.
it
Well, I
is,
mean, I
man.
like Norman. I enjoy the Palace on the Prairie. I guess that's just one of their things. He's like, you know what? We just gonna go ahead and take residence in this back corner. Sorry, guys, and we can't do nothing about it yet.
Like I said, y'all, he's a closet TCU fan, but
I'm not a
uh,
TCU or K State fan. I'm just saying, man. They have owned us at home. What, 3 of the last 4 games?
man, that is just two games, man, and the other ones don't count because you know who was the coach.
All of them matter. I put it like this. There was a stat. This is the funny thing that I saw. Kansas State, I think they said they won 8 games against top 10 teams in the last 20 years, 20 plus
Yeah,
years, right? 8. Guess how many was against Oklahoma?
4.
6.
Yep.
They like beating Oklahoma. That's just what it is. Most of their wins against top teams is always Oklahoma. It's just
It
we're just
sucks because it's like damn, man. Hey, oh, one more thing before we get up out of here. Look, I'm sorry. I know I shouldn't be doing this. I shouldn't say this. Keep brawls off the field, please. Please play key. Please pay key, man. I can't do it anymore, man. I just can't. You can't make excuses for that. You can't even say nothing right now, Jay, because you know what I'm talking about.
I'm not gonna make excuses, while at the same time I will say this. There are moments when we need them in the game. There's moments we not. We gonna need to figure out how to shift players in and out better. Period. The rotation's got to be a little different.
Period.
He's done some stuff that we needed. He's done some plays. I think the biggest problem I had in this game with anybody, especially in the secondary, when Adrian Martinez scrambled, did you notice that they didn't throw any deep passes? What was the longest play that
No,
he had in that game?
it was an intermediate. It was an intermediate passing pass game and a heavy emphasis on the run.
Literally. Like, he was not throwing deep passes at all in that game, and it was all on us. If we would
Mm-hmm.
have in this game, his longest pass was 27 yards, and that was when he
Well, I'm
scrambled and just lobbed it toward the corner, toward the sidelines.
yeah.
If we would have been mentally noticing that, because he can't throw that well on the run,
No,
as far as deep goes, we would have done better about that. We'd have been fine, but we
he's
didn't.
not a great passer. Period. But I mean, hey, they got us on that game. But like I said, TCU this weekend beat TCU. Hashtag beat TCU.
Hashtag
We in
beat them
there.
Horned Frogs.
Yeah, hey, look, 1-0 this week. That's all that matters. Keep the main thing, like they say. I'm still optimistic about this team. Always will be optimistic about this team. I think we got it, man. We got the staff, we got the players, we got everything that we need. Just gotta circle the wagon and go on and go. Let's get it,
Yeah,
man.
we do. That's all we gotta do.
Max
We get that going,
effort.
we'll be fine. Yeah,
Max
exactly. And now
effort.
I'm gonna say this: as you call me this closet Kansas State fan, let me remind you, we lost 3 of the last 4 to them. We've also lost 1, 2, 3, 4 home games to them at home. We've lost them at home since 2012.
Why are we doing this?
I'm
Why are we
just
doing
telling you,
this?
man. They're not bad. That's my point. My whole point behind all this has always been they just like Norman, man. I just don't know why. They just do. We
Probably
gotta
because
stop it
they have
though.
a
Moving
fan in
forward, we gotta
Oklahoma
stop it.
City with a Thor hammer behind them, right? That's what I'm saying. But nah, go ahead. Let everybody know exactly where they can find you at, Jay.
Hey, you know where to find me at Unfair Sports. Just search us on YouTube as well as wherever podcasts are downloaded and listen to. Kchris, thanks as usual for having me on. I love bantering back and forth. Like you said, and I keep saying, Sooner fans, relax. We'll be
Mhm.
fine. The road to a very good bowl game or the playoff is still there. All we got to do is execute, and I think that this staff and these players will do it.
Aaron Rodgers said it best:
I'm
RELAX.
gonna start wearing that shirt again. I have a relaxed shirt here that I made of Aaron Rodgers basically saying that. I'm gonna start rocking that for the rest of the week.
You got to, because all this right now is just rat poison.
Yeah.
Hey, Saturday, that's all I'm focused on. The last
Winning.
Saturday is in the past. Next Saturday, I'm probably not. Well, yeah, I am gonna go to another game, but I'm probably not gonna go to another home game because I feel like I'm bad luck. But I'm like,
No,
hey,
don't be superstitious. You'll be fine. Pull up, enjoy yourself. I'll be at the TCU game. So find me if you're gonna be in the area. Just look for me. I'll be rocking the General Booty Call shirt. So it'll be easy to find this random dude with dreads. Just come find your boy. We'll grab a beer. We'll toast and chop it up about Sooner Sports. But I will be in Fort Worth this weekend.
all right. So y'all heard it, man. This is the Horns Down podcast. Your host, Chris with a K, your boy Chris Griffin. Shout out to my guy Seth Oliveris and everybody else who contributes and who likes, subscribes, and all that to the channel. So definitely follow my guy Jay at Unfair Sports. And for that, people, we are out.
Peace.